The year is 2008. Deep in the underground bunkers of Tel Aviv, the Israeli Air Force is preparing for the unthinkable. Fighter jets are fueled, pilots are briefed, and targeting coordinates are locked. Their target is not a military base, nor a terrorist training camp. It is a massive, heavily fortified underground facility in the deserts of Iran. A facility named Natanz. The intelligence is terrifyingly clear. Iran is enriching uranium, spinning thousands of centrifuges to build a nuclear bomb. The Israeli Prime Minister is out of patience. A preemptive strike, a devastating bombing campaign, seems like the only option left to ensure the survival of his nation. But there is a massive problem. A strike on Natanz would not just be a tactical bombing. It would be the spark that ignites World War III in the Middle East. Retaliation would be swift, bloody, and catastrophic. Across the globe, inside the windowless, highly secured walls of the White House Situation Room, the President of the United States faces a nightmare scenario. George W. Bush, and soon after him, Barack Obama, stare down a historical crossroads. How do you stop a nuclear holocaust without dropping a single bomb? How do you destroy an impenetrable fortress without sending a single soldier across the border? The answer to that impossible question would change the course of human history forever. The answer was not made of depleted uranium, high explosives, or stealth technology. The most destructive, sophisticated weapon of the 21st century weighed exactly 0 grams. It fired no bullets, left no fingerprints, and cast no shadow. Welcome to the shadows. Welcome to Operation Olympic Games. This was the darkest, most highly classified cyber intelligence project ever conceived by human minds. A joint operation so secret that even the highest-ranking military generals were kept in the dark. It was the birth of a new era of warfare, an era where code is weaponized, and the battlefield is everywhere and nowhere. Before we dive into the anatomy of this digital assassin, you must understand the fortress it was designed to penetrate. The Natanz nuclear enrichment facility was not your average building. It was buried up to 30 feet underground, shielded by reinforced concrete thick enough to withstand bunker-busting munitions, and surrounded by rings of anti-aircraft batteries. But its ultimate defense was not physical. It was digital. The entire control system of Natanz was air-gapped. This is a term that strikes despair into the hearts of hackers worldwide. Air-gapped means the computers controlling the uranium centrifuges were completely, physically disconnected from the outside internet. No Wi-Fi, no Ethernet cables leading to the outside world, no Bluetooth, nothing. You could be the greatest hacker on Earth, sitting in a dark room in Maryland or Tel Aviv. But if the target machine is not plugged into the internet, it is a ghost. You cannot touch it. It was considered the ultimate, unbreakable vault of cybersecurity. To breach an air-gapped system, you need a miracle, or you need to build a monster. The United States National Security Agency, the NSA, joined forces with Unit 8200, the legendary and ruthless cyber warfare division of the Israeli Mossad. Together, they embarked on a mission to build a piece of malware unlike anything the world had ever seen. They needed a virus that was not just designed to steal data or crash a computer screen. They needed a digital entity that could reach out from the virtual world and physically destroy heavy, industrial machinery in the real world. This had never been done before. To achieve this impossible feat, they created Stuxnet. Stuxnet was not just a virus, it was a digital masterpiece. A terrifying work of art coded by absolute geniuses. A normal computer virus relies on one, maybe two vulnerabilities to infect a system. Stuxnet was armed with 4 zero-day exploits. A zero-day is a software vulnerability that is completely unknown to the vendor, meaning there is 0 days of protection against it. On the cyber black market, a single zero-day exploit can sell for hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars. Using 4 of them in a single piece of malware was a display of unprecedented, almost reckless power and wealth. It was like using 4 nuclear warheads to open a single door. This ensured that absolutely no antivirus software on the planet could detect it. Stuxnet was entirely invisible, but the ultimate question remained: how do you get this invisible, multi-million-dollar digital assassin inside an impenetrable, air-gapped fortress? You cannot email it to an Iranian engineer. You cannot send it through a fiber optic cable. Code cannot walk. The creators of Stuxnet understood a fundamental flaw in any security system. The weakest link is never the machine. It is always the human. The weapon did not fly through the air. It walked right through the heavily armed front gates of Natanz, completely undetected, resting comfortably in the pocket of an unwitting courier. Intelligence agencies targeted outside contractors, companies that provided maintenance or engineering services to the Natanz facility. Someone, somewhere, either through bribery, coercion, or sheer carelessness, was handed a cheap $5 USB flash drive. That simple, mundane piece of plastic held the destiny of the Middle East. When that contractor walked into Natanz, bypassed the armed guards, sat down at an internal, air-gapped computer, and plugged that USB drive into a port, the vault was opened. In that exact fraction of a second, the invisible assassin slipped into the bloodstream of the Iranian nuclear program. The gates of hell had been quietly unlocked, and no one heard a thing. Once inside the Natanz network, the monster did not immediately attack. It was not a mindless beast. It was a highly intelligent, patient hunter. Stuxnet was programmed to lie dormant, hiding in the shadows of the code, completely undetected. For weeks, it silently observed the environment. It studied the specific Siemens programmable logic controllers, the exact brains of the uranium enrichment centrifuges. It recorded precisely how the machines operated under normal, safe conditions. It memorized the frequencies, the pressures, and the exact digital signatures of a healthy, functioning nuclear reactor. It was learning. Then, when it had gathered enough intelligence, the silent courier executed its lethal payload. It began the cycle of death. Stuxnet seized control of the frequency converter drives, the critical components that dictated the speed of the massive, delicate centrifuges. Without any warning, the virus commanded the motors to spin at an extreme, uncontrollable speed, reaching a staggering 1,410 hertz. The machines screamed under the immense physical stress, vibrating violently. But before they completely tore themselves apart, Stuxnet suddenly slammed on the digital brakes. It dropped the frequency down to a mere 2 hertz, an agonizingly slow grind. The massive deceleration caused the delicate aluminum rotors inside the centrifuges to warp, crack, and ultimately shatter into pieces. The physical destruction was catastrophic, but the true genius, the most terrifying aspect of Stuxnet, was not the destruction itself. It was the illusion. while the giant centrifuges were literally tearing themselves to shreds deep underground. The Iranian engineers sitting in the control room saw absolutely nothing wrong. Their computer screens, the very monitors designed to alert them of any malfunction, displayed a steady stream of calming green numbers. Everything appeared perfectly normal. How was this possible? Stuxnet had pulled off the greatest digital heist in history. It had hijacked the display screens, playing back the normal, healthy data it had recorded during its dormant phase. It was forcing the engineers to watch a pre-recorded digital hallucination while the physical facility burned around them. They were staring at a lie. The psychological collapse inside Natanz was devastating. When the engineers finally realized the centrifuges were physically destroyed, they were thrown into total panic. Their screens showed no errors, no alarms, and absolutely no signs of a cyber attack. They had no idea they were fighting a ghost. The Iranian government, completely oblivious to the digital infiltration, turned its paranoia inward. They assumed it was human error, incompetence, or worse, treason. Some of the brightest nuclear scientists in Iran were suddenly fired, investigated, or thrown into secret prisons, accused of being foreign spies or saboteurs. The atmosphere inside Natanz became toxic, fueled by suspicion and dread. Men were blaming each other for a catastrophe caused by an invisible enemy. Operation Olympic Games was a resounding success. The Iranian nuclear program was crippled, set back by at least 2 entire years. World War III had been temporarily averted, and not a single bullet was fired. But the story does not end there. The creators of this ultimate weapon made a fatal miscalculation. Intelligence reports suggest that one of the Allied agencies, widely believed to be the Israeli Unit 8200, grew impatient. They wanted more destruction, and they wanted it faster. They allegedly altered the code without fully consulting their American partners, making Stuxnet far more aggressive and virulent. They unleashed a version of the virus that was no longer a silent, targeted assassin. It became a frantic, uncontrollable beast. And then, the impossible happened. The monster escaped the cage. The containment protocol failed. A single Iranian engineer, completely unaware of the digital plague his laptop was carrying, walked out of the Natanz facility. He went home, connected his machine to the public internet, and unwittingly opened Pandora's box. The invisible assassin was no longer confined to the air-gapped desert bunker. It spread with the speed of light. Within days, Stuxnet infected hundreds of thousands of computers across the globe. From corporate servers in Indonesia and India to personal laptops in the United States and Europe, the virus multiplied relentlessly. It was searching, endlessly hunting for Siemens controllers, even though its true target was thousands of miles away. It was this massive, uncontrolled global outbreak that finally caught the attention of the world. Independent cybersecurity researchers from Symantec, Kaspersky, and other top firms began to capture and dissect the rogue code. What they found inside the architecture of Stuxnet chilled them to the bone. They expected to find a typical financial Trojan or a hacker's vanity project. Instead, they discovered a terrifying digital weapon of mass destruction. As they reverse-engineered the code, they realized this was not the work of teenagers in a basement. The sheer complexity, the multiple zero-day exploits, and the highly specific targeting of industrial hardware pointed to a singular, terrifying conclusion. This was a nation-state weapon, It was a cyber weapon built by a superpower. Though neither the United States nor Israel has ever officially claimed responsibility, the digital fingerprints left behind pointed directly at Washington and Tel Aviv. The secret was out. Operation Olympic Games was exposed to the daylight. The world was forced to wake up to a terrifying new reality. Stuxnet crossed the Rubicon. It was the first time in human history that a computer virus was used to inflict physical, violent destruction on a sovereign nation's critical infrastructure. The rules of engagement were shattered. The United States and Israel had successfully delayed the Iranian nuclear bomb. But in doing so, they had handed the blueprint for digital warfare to every enemy on Earth. They showed the world that you no longer need a billion-dollar air force to cripple a country. You just need a keyboard, a team of elite coders, and patience. The weapon we created has now become the template for our adversaries. Following Stuxnet, a massive wave of retaliatory and copycat cyber weapons flooded the internet. Malware like Shamoon and NotPetya, utilizing the exact same aggressive propagation techniques pioneered by Stuxnet, were unleashed by hostile nations, causing billions of dollars in global economic damage. Our own weapon was reverse engineered and turned against us. The age of cyber warfare is no longer a dystopian science fiction movie. It is happening right now, silently, in the cables running beneath your feet. As you sit here, watching this video, another invisible assassin could be lying dormant in the systems that control your city's water supply, your hospital's power grid, or your nation's financial sector. It is just waiting in the dark, waiting for the final command to execute. The next global conflict will not begin with the deafening roar of a nuclear explosion or the march of 1 million soldiers. It will begin with a silent line of code. Do not close your eyes to the shadows. If you want to survive the coming digital storm and uncover the secrets they are desperately trying to hide from you, you must stay informed. Subscribe to Shadow Dossier right now. The next file we declassify might just save your life.